Hello everyone, what's up? Welcome back. Force here once again, taking a look at some of the best new games that are launching this time for the month of December 2023. Things are pretty slow this month, but one of the nice things about the hobby of gaming is that there's always something new to look forward to. It's so big, there's so many studios, developers, and publishers. There's always a new game coming out. Maybe one of them catches your interest. Let's take a look at what we've got to look forward to this month. Starting things off with Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora. This is a new first-person open world game from the creators of The Division, Ubisoft Massive. While still an open world, there's a noticeable departure here from their prior work, mainly in presentation, gameplay style, and of course the setting. The game takes place in the lush, vibrant world of Pandora. If you've ever watched the Avatar films and thought to yourself, gee, that could make a cool game, well, this month we will see just how well Ubisoft Massive delivers on that premise. As a side note here as well, I gotta say, I was a massive fan of The Division. The sequel didn't really click with me nearly as much, but I just loved the original, so I am keen on the developer in general. I am rooting for them here. And also, I've actually already played this game, or at least 2 hours worth of it, at a virtual hands-on session the other month. And my overall takeaway was fairly positive. It is certainly an open world game, and as such, it has all of the expected features. There are camps to clear, points of interest to discover, puzzles to solve, resources and loot to gather, etc., all with a touch of Avatar. So enemy camps include like outpost and mining installations, things constructed by the bad guy faction in this game, known as the RDA. They set up camps all around the world to plunder the resources. You go in, eliminate the enemies, which consist of a mix of humans and mechs, and then capture the camp. Doing so allows nature to creep back in, quite literally. Plants and wildlife will overtake the camps, which opens up new resources and loot for you to gather. The open world is chock full, and I mean loaded, of all sorts of plants and wildlife. There's a massive variety of plants everywhere, and not just as backdrop either. There are resource plants for crafting, buff plants providing temporary boost, traversal plants helping you get around, and even progression plants doing things like boosting your health permanently. There's also a load of hostile plants and wildlife. If you venture too close to the plants, they'll like explode or whack you with something, and the wildlife will pretty much attack you on sight. Also, while exploring, besides coming across the RDA enemy camps and outposts to clear, you're gonna find an assortment of structures, abandoned buildings, bases, natural caves, outcroppings, and various points of interest, all containing stuff for you to collect. There'll be containers, chests, tree trunks, and all sorts of stuff with loot, resources, consumables, and even gear to find, as the game does have an RPG style system of loot with different rarities. There's even RPG progression in this game with various skill trees. And yes, again, everything else you expect out of an open world game. Base camps with vendors, quest givers, and crafting stations. There's tons of points of interest, providing varied gameplay, mini games, and different sorts of rewards. There'll be all sorts of side stories over besides the main campaign and adventure, different activities to partake in. There's a day-night cycle with weather conditions as well. And the game's combat is first person, pretty straightforward from what I played. You point and you shoot. Sometimes you aim for weak points. Not a ton of depth, it seems, at least from my early hands-on impression. Feels like this game is more about being in the world, the exploration, the adventure, and the storytelling. Probably my biggest personal disappointment is that this is a single-player and or a two-player co-op game and not a shared open world. Given that this is from Ubisoft Massive, I was kind of hoping for and would have loved for this to have like more of a multiplayer emphasis. Like imagine there was a ton of different Avatar characters running around and you could do stuff together and there could be some PvP or whatever, or co-op PvE events, like big stuff. If they just like did sort of the Division style multiplayer in what the game is already here, that would have been a little more appealing to me, but that's just not what this is, and that's fine as well if you like single player and or co-op games, which I do, but I prefer the shared world stuff. But again, that's just a little personal gripe, not a huge deal. Avatar: Frontiers of Pandora is looking pretty good. It launches on December 7th, coming to PlayStation, Xbox, and PC. And the next game I want to tell you about is today's sponsor. Today's video is sponsored by Hawked, a free-to-play online PvPvE extraction shooter where you squad up with friends and explore a mysterious island while battling monsters, solving puzzles, and fighting other players, all the while searching for and trying to escape with ancient treasures. The premise is you are a renegade recruited by the Adventurers Guild Grail, given the task to explore Isle X, an island filled with lush plains, jungles, and ancient ruins. You must plunder the island's supplies, gather weapons and ammo, upgrade and combine gear while employing special abilities, tech, and mystical artifacts. With the game's early access release, which begins today, they are holding a special event. You can join the Renegade Rally by registering on the Hawked website. Everyone who signs up is guaranteed 7 days of Grail Plus Premium, with better rewards available as more players join. At the end of the rally, a raffle will take place amongst all participants, with rewards including a lifetime supply of premium currency. When the first season begins, Hawked will also have a battle pass available with a selection of exclusive items such as weapon skins, themed outfits, customization items, and more. So if you're interested in checking out Hawked, once again, it is free to play and entering PC early access today on November 30th, with a console release coming early next year. Okay, the next game on this list is here purely out of morbid curiosity. I don't expect it to be good, but maybe, just maybe, it isn't terrible. I'd consider that a pleasant surprise. I'm talking about The Day Before, the infamous open world survival MMO set in a deadly post-pandemic America that's been overrun by flesh-hungry infected, or maybe not so overrun depending on the zombie density, which doesn't look too dense here. Now, putting aside the absolute absurdity that has been the development history, the marketing, the legal battles, and the developers' communications, what about the game itself? Well, it is said to be an open world zombie survival MMO, like I mentioned. They've also made note that there will be a big focus on PvP, to the point where in some of their recent communications and discussion about the game, they have said that PvP is actually the main focus. Conflict with other players will be at the forefront of your experience in The Day Before. They've also said the game is set in a huge detailed open world with large cities and towns, mountains and forests, all full of homes, stores, skyscrapers, business centers, malls, and stadiums that can be explored and looted. We'll have to scavenge for resources, consumables, and weapons to fend off what zombies there are, as well as other players, and to maintain our character with various survival mechanics like hunger and thirst. There are survivor colonies where we can go to trade, communicate, and team up with others. We've actually seen one of these bases of operation in a recent trailer. This showed off NPCs, vendors, crafting stations, other players running around. They've also shown them having spas and gyms, which is likely there for some temporary buff mechanics. Some other stuff about the game that we have seen through the various gameplay trailers, especially the most recent ones, include the inventory system looks pretty straightforward survival with equipment, weapons, and pockets. The backpack has this tile-based storage where larger items take up more space. Items in the game will include pretty much what you expect from survival games. There's food, water, meds, ammunition, throwables, and various currencies. There is an encumbrance system as well, with a limited amount of weight that you can carry. We saw this digital pad where players could pull this out to view and accept different side quests. There is the safe space known as the ranch, where you can place furniture, decorations, do some crafting. Maybe this has like a rested buff mechanic. We know there are going to be various vehicles, jeeps, and off-road vehicles. We've seen a few different showcases of these in various trailers. And the game also has a character customizer creator. Now, when this game was first originally revealed, one of the original main things they said about it is their goal was to bring some big innovation to the long, stagnant survival MMO genre. I will definitely say, following this game's development and just everything that's happened over the past few years has been anything but stagnant. It has been quite exciting and a lot going on and really interesting. And for that reason alone, I just have to see how it all ends up culminating with this release. So The Day Before is coming into Steam Early Access. It'll be launching on December the 7th. I am not expecting much, but I am genuinely hoping for the best. Surprise me, give me big innovation to the long, stagnant survival MMO genre. Please, I'm begging you. That would be awesome. Probably not happening. Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader is a story-rich classical RPG from Owlcat Games, the developers of the critically acclaimed Pathfinder Wrath of the Righteous. I played Pathfinder and really liked it. Prior to Baldur's Gate 3 taking the world by storm, this was often considered one of the better old-school classic RPG alternatives to Dungeons and Dragons. I remember actually having a lot of fun with this game. Anyway, the new Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader is them taking that successful formula and putting a Warhammer spin to it, which is a promising premise. The game has you playing as a rogue trader, one of the select few in the 40k universe that's basically given free reign to move around the world. Things begin with you aboard a personal giant void ship traveling between the systems of the Coronas Expanse. In the process, you find yourself presented with tons of opportunities for profit and glory, but not without its fair share of dangers. The game has isometric turn-based combat, so whenever your party comes across a group of enemies, combat begins and everyone is sorted into an attack order based on initiative, I assume. And then using something like an AP system, you will do the typical turn-based stuff. You can choose to move your character, attack, place a trap, cast a support spell, post up for counterattacks, heal a teammate, take cover, buff yourself, trigger explosives in the environment, etc., etc., etc. Isometric turn-based combat has a lot of potential to it, as we have seen in recent years, and again, Pathfinder, their last project, was a really good game. There will be dialogue and social skill checks. The game has a ton of story with numerous response options at every turn. In some gameplay that I saw, a character was responding to a single line question and they were prompted with 7 different response choices. 7 of them. So yes, clearly there's going to be a lot of decisions to be made, and those will end up impacting the world around you as well as the characters. There's gear, loot, and progression systems, so both you and your party can be equipped from head to toe. Armor pieces, accessories, weapons, and consumables, all of which impact this fairly in-depth system of character stats, weapon proficiencies, and skills. And you'll go around gathering a crew to add to your team, all of which have their different playstyles and special abilities, which you will use as you play out through this dark, grim 40k story. You know, CRPGs aren't for everyone, that is for sure, but one of the reasons I'm really happy about the success of Baldur's Gate 3 is that it seems to have opened up more people to this genre. Owlcat Games have certainly already proven that they can make a good CRPG, so hopefully they deliver here yet again. Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader will be launching on December 7th and is coming to Steam. The Finals is a team-based destruction-heavy competitive FPS being developed by Embark Studios. I'm quite hopeful for this game, not only because it seems good and was good from what I played, but also because Embark is developing another game that I'm super interested in, which is Arc Raiders. Even though that one changed from a looter shooter to an extraction game, never mind that. The Finals places you as a contestant in a futuristic game show competing for big cash prizes. You'll play in small teams fighting over objectives on a variety of maps full of destruction. And when I say full, I mean full. The levels of environmental destruction in this game are quite impressive. As I said a moment ago, I did already play a bit earlier in the year. I had a hands-on session, got to play for a few hours, and came away quite impressed. Here's a basic rundown of the game. So it is a class-based game. You actually start out by picking one of 3 types. There's light, medium, and heavy. You can have a character of each type, but you'll pick which one you want to bring with you into a match. Each of these have their own perks and are able to actually further pick into specializations with unique weapons and skills, along with a choice of primary weapon and support gadgets. There's also some light visual customization with facial, body type, and hair options. Now, the primary mode in the Finals, the big selling point, is this game mode called Cash Out, in which 4 teams of 3 compete to collect currency. The team with the most cash at the end wins. So the game starts out with you busting through a wall, after which you are immediately presented with 4 marked locations, 2 vaults, and 2 cash out spots, and there's an 8-minute timer. So you pick one of the 2 vault locations and you head there. Once you arrive, you interacting with the vault begins a short timer. When that finishes, you can pick the vault up and it's worth a certain amount of money. That vault then needs to be hand carried, actually replacing the weapon of one of your teammates to one of the marked cash out spots. So you head to the cash out spot, some PvP probably happens in between. Once you arrive at the terminal and place the vault in the cash out, a long deposit timer begins. During that time, any of the other teams and players can come up and attempt to steal it from you, which will then actually swap ownership over to them. Ultimately, whoever has control of the cash out terminal when the timer completes will be earning that money for their team, which moves them up the ranks on the leaderboards. Again, all you're trying to do is accumulate as much cash as possible. You get a small amount of cash for kills and doing little things like reviving, but a bulk of it comes from completing the main objectives. The team with the most cash at the end of the match wins the game. Now, the specifics of the game mode are one thing, but really the gameplay and the environmental stuff is what impressed me the most. From what I could tell while playing, first of all, just about every single structure in the game can be destroyed. This is limited a little bit due to you needing some sort of explosives or certain weapons and items, but still, if you have any explosives, if you have weapons like a sledgehammer, certain classes can like tear down walls with their abilities. If you have a grenade launcher, anything that would cause damage to the structural integrity of a building will in this game. It is super impressive looking. It is very thorough and dynamic, and this alone was very appealing. But on top of that, other things I enjoyed playing the game were just the gameplay in general. Weapons felt impactful to shoot, and the sounds were good. The movement was very fluid. Really enjoyed just moving around, shooting things, blowing stuff up. The maps we've played on were interesting. It felt pretty complex with a lot of different spots and avenues for traversal, and they also felt really big due to the verticality of most of the levels. Visually, the game looks fantastic from top to bottom. It is very striking, and even with all the destruction, even with the great visuals, the performance was rock solid when I played. Really, really impressive stuff. I quite enjoyed the game. I am looking forward to its full release. Now, the Finals is currently still slated to launch in 2023, although no exact date has been set. That makes its release in December pretty ominous, but I do think there's a chance they end up doing like a shadow drop at some point in the month where they just go, hey, the game is ready, we finished it, you can play it right now, instead of some big lead up to release. I think that's possible, or it gets delayed. We'll be finding out sometime in the next next month. All right, so those are the top best looking new games coming out in December, but there's actually quite a few game updates and beta tests that I would like you to know about. Starting with World of Warcraft getting its first official taste of what is pretty much Classic Plus this month with Season of Discovery. This takes the base version of Classic era WoW and throws in a few twists for every class while adding brand new PvE and PvP content. There are new discoveries hidden all throughout the game that reward unique skills and talents for every class. Finding these won't be super simple. Beyond the first one, there will be no indicators, guides, or map markers. It's really meant to create some discovery. Although that said, give it a week and an add-on with all the locations will probably be released. Or don't and try finding them on your own and doing the whole discovery part of Season of Discovery. Now, the discoveries are primarily there to reward class runes, which are entirely new sets of active and passive abilities for every class. Some of these are completely brand new, never before seen in WoW. Others are fan favorites from various expansions that are being brought to Classic. Either way, the end result is more utility and variety for specs that are otherwise useless or enhancing ones that are already good, and also sometimes introducing new roles like tanking, warlocks, rogues, and shamans, or even mage healers. Season of Discovery will release in multiple phases, resulting in these tiered endgames, starting with a cap of 25. You hit that cap, and then you start trying different builds and searching for best in slot gear. There's new content. We got the revamped BFD, changing what was a 5-player group dungeon into a level 25 10-player raid with new bosses and loot drops to boot. And what I am most excited for is the PvP focus. There's a brand new open world PvP event, turning Ashenvale into sort of a mini Alterac Valley with faction leaders for both sides, camps that buff them, and rewards for killing other players and the enemy faction leader. So yeah, this is Blizzard taking a crack at Classic Plus, the goal of which is to keep the core design philosophies of the original game and just expand and add to it without changing it too drastically like the game changed through various expansions over the years. I am really looking forward to this. I'm definitely going to be playing Season of Discovery this month. It actually launches officially on November the 30th. Also this month, Diablo 4 is getting a big update with patch 1.2.3, adding a new endgame activity called Abattoir of Zur. This is new endgame content being added to the game's currently running second season. So Abattoir of Zur is what's called an endgame pinnacle dungeon. It's really meant for after you finish the season journey, and the structure of it reminds me a little bit of riffs from Diablo 3. Basically, it is a time trial. You jump into the dungeon, kill as many enemies as you can, filling up a progress bar, and then once the bar is full, a boss spawns, you kill it. The reward for your first completion is this new powerful glyph called Tears of Blood. It grants a very strong flat percent multiplicative damage increase, as well as adding bonuses for nearby rare nodes. Now, Abattoir of Zur will have 25 difficulty levels. Ultimately, though, they're just saying, hey, this is your next challenge beyond pushing nightmare dungeons. It's basically something to fill the time for people who have more or less felt like they've finished playing the game and are just grinding, leveling up their glyphs in nightmare dungeons for the season. There's also other stuff coming in December to Diablo 4. We got a holiday event called Midwinter Blight. Fractured Peaks has been invaded by a host of new enemies. The holiday event comes with its own new quest and activities. Kill some enemies, summon the event boss called the Red Cloaked Horror, kill the boss, and get some rewards, which pretty much boil down to event cosmetics. Abattoir of Zur opens up on December 5th, and the Midnight Blight is coming out on December the 12th. Beyond those, there's an alpha test that I'm super pumped for. The game is called NAKWON. It is a third-person zombie apocalypse stealth survival extraction game. That is a mouthful of a genre. Think along the lines of Dark and Darker, but you're in a city with zombies and other hostile players. You have to sneak around, gather resources, find valuable items, and try to survive long enough to escape with your stuff. I think this looks really interesting, and what especially piqued my interest was when I learned the developer was Mint Rocket. This is the same studio who made Dave the Diver. People love Dave the Diver to the point where it is in the running for some Game of the Year list. So for that reason, I am very hopeful that they strike gold again with NAKWON. Now, the game is going to take place in Seoul, this densely populated city with tons of hiding spots within it, between the buildings and alleys. You'll sneak around collecting useful items and completing missions, trying to survive and either avoid or engaging with zombies and players. To help you avoid, there are stealth mechanics, so zombies are drawn to sounds as well as players are. The movement you do makes noise, and it's actually represented by these pulsating rings that come out from your feet. The slower you move, the less noise you make. You can lure zombies and players with various objects, causing a distraction to either sneak away or get the jump on them. If you do happen to get into a fight with zombies or a player and end up dying, that means losing all your stuff. Again, this is a survival extraction game, so it follows along the same general rule sets. Although there is one notable interesting thing where they've got like this citizen reputation system. There's some simulation elements here apparently. You have to actually earn money, they said, to pay for rent. I don't know what that stuff's all about, but either way, I really dig the extraction genre, especially ones that stray from the FPS roots, and I think this looks really neat. Given that, again, that it's from Mint Rocket, I am very hopeful. So they are hosting an alpha test for NAKWON. It's running from November 30th to December 4th. It is a very short window, but if you're watching this video in that time frame and you're interested, you can register to check it out on the game's Steam page. All right, so that is the main bulk of the list. I want to now run off some honorable mentions for this month. First up is Blood West, this immersive stealth FPS horror game set in the wicked Wild West. Brought back to life by native spirits, you are tasked with exploring and scavenging in order to build up an arsenal of weapons, unlock perks, and hunt down twisted demons and eldritch horrors. Or to put it another way, this looks like a spooky indie boomer shooter. That's the vibe that I get. The game is going to have stealth elements as you're trying to hide and avoid the various dangerous enemies, take them out by surprise, and if stealth doesn't work, you will have various tools for fighting them head on. There's some resource management here, as you have to be mindful of your consumables, healing, and ammunition, and the game will have a progression system with you unlocking various perks. So Blood West is currently playable. It is in Steam Early Access, and the user reviews at the moment sit at a very positive. Although it is a relatively small number of people, it seems those who are playing it are enjoying it. The game is leaving Early Access into a full 1.0 release on December the 5th. Terminator Dark Fate Defiance is a gritty RTS that puts you in the middle of the future wars between humanity and Legion's synthetic intelligent machine network bent on destroying humanity. The game features a story campaign as you start humanity's resistance against the machines by surviving engagements with Legion and rallying others to your cause. The story will take you through various dangerous locations as you search for allies and supplies. It features isometric real-time strategy combat where you'll have to make tactical decisions to survive and win, using a variety of military equipment, vehicles, and ammo types, along with recruiting and training new units, assigning skills, weapons, and equipment. You'll have things like infantry units, armored military vehicles, plasma cannons, drones, and all sorts of other tools at your disposal. It's got dynamic environments with physics-based building demolition that lets you generate realistic tactical consequences, especially in these densely populated urban areas. And beyond the campaign, there will be some online multiplayer with 1v1, 2v1, and 2v2 battles. Terminator Dark Fate Defiance launches on December 7th for PC via Steam. And finally, we have Pioneers of Pagonia. This is a city building game about exploration, discovery, and reuniting fantastical islands of Pagonia. You will oversee the construction of island cities, making choices, which task its thousands of inhabitants to scurry around, executing orders, building villages, and claiming territories. You'll try to build a flourishing economy with over 40 buildings and 70 different goods to produce. All of this occurs on these procedurally generated maps, each presenting their own unique challenges. You'll have to protect your population from hostile animals, plundering bandits, and mythical creatures even, and send out pioneers to explore new lands, find hidden resources, and uncover secrets. Pioneers of Pagonia is entering Steam Early Access on December the 13th. And with that, we wrap up this month's list. It is a slow month, not as many games as a lot of the prior months that I'm really looking forward to, but there are a few on here that I'm excited about, and definitely enough that will be taking up quite a bit of my time between WoW Season of Discovery, checking out the NAKWON Alpha. I'm definitely going to play the day before. I'd love to play the finals again if it does release this year, and then Warhammer 40k Rogue Trader also seems pretty good. Yeah, good looking games. It's a small list, but it's a list of good looking games that have me excited. But that about does it. As always, thank you so much for watching. Hopefully you guys found this helpful, useful. Hopefully you found some games in here that you're interested in. Certainly quite a few for me. So that's it for this month. I guess I'll see you next year. Haha. See you next month. I'll see you in January. Okay. Thanks. See you guys. Bye.